Outten Visiting Artist Lecture. This podium is usually not facing this way, so I kind of feel like it's strange. But I can strike this relaxing, disarming pose for you all today. I'm Margrit Lewczuk. I'm the director of the Maier Museum of Art, and I'm so happy to see all of you here on this gorgeous day. The Outten Visiting Artist Lecture series was established in 1993 by Helen Wolfe in memory of her sister, Mary Jane Wolfe Outten, class of 1927, to assist in promoting the Maier Museum of Art and its efforts to obtain outstanding visiting artists and lecturers. This year, we have additional support provided by Nancy Forsyth Walker, class of 1998. And before I turn the podium over to Professor Kathy Muehlman, who will be introducing Margrit Lewczuk this afternoon, I wanted to remind any of you who are not members of the museum to please consider joining because, for instance, Nancy Walker joined at a membership level that helps us to put these educational programs on. So, and there are other levels you can join at too, so you don't have to join at that level. There's a whole range of levels. So please consider joining and enjoy the lecture. Thank you for coming, and I'd like to turn the podium over to Professor Kathy Muehlman.
So you're probably wondering why I'm standing up here other than being a professor. And I would say the reason I'm up here is for love. Love of Margaret and Bill and the art they've made. We've been friends, Jim and I, and Bill and Margaret, for almost 40 years. And many, many times our paths have intertwined. Margaret and I showed in the same New York gallery for a number of years. We met Russell, their son, 27 years ago, the day he was born. And in 1994, when we were hired to come down here, one of the first things we wanted to do was to share Bill and Margaret with our students and our colleagues. And we did, and they've been coming for the 20 years that we've been here. Bill has been in 2 exhibitions of the Maier, and Margaret had her first museum show at the Maier 10 years ago in that room. They were wonderful paintings that when you went in, they were one thing, and you turned out the light, and they glowed in the dark, a different thing. So you could hear, when the lights go out, you could hear people go, oh! And Bill said, they never do that for my work. So, of course, it's a thrill to have Margaret back. And we are here also because of an occasion of honor. Margaret most recently received the 2013 American Academy of Arts and Letters Award, and she was the recipient of she was the first recipient of the Jacob Lawrence Award, and she was also honored by the Academy's Art Purchase Program, founded by Childe Hassam. Childe Hassam is in the next room, Jacob Lawrence is in the next room, and the best surprise is now Margrit Lewczuk is in the next room because we were able to ask the Academy if we could have that painting. 1946, Stuart Davis came into our collection through that program, and Margaret, and reading about Margaret, some things I still don't know about her. It was the first painting she ever made as a young person was copying Stuart Davis. So again, there are these connections. In 2003, Pat Pasloff, we got her painting from the Academy. And this year, when we found out that Margaret's painting had been bought by them, we asked, could we have that painting? And they said yes. And part of the reason I think they said yes was because of the museum show she had here. So there are a lot more connections, and I'll mention a few, but I'm not going to stay up here too long because I don't want to hog your time with Margaret. Margaret studied at Queens College and the Brooklyn Museum of Art School. She is a born and raised, bred New Yorker, and that's rare. Most of us are imports in New York. She's been the recipient of many prestigious awards, the Gottlieb Foundation Grant, the John Simon Guggenheim Fellowship Grant, which she told me today, won the same year, another connection. A National Endowment for the Arts Award, and the Robert Rauchenberg Foundation Change Grant. And as I said, most recently she received the American Academy of Arts and Letters Award. I'm just looking at I don't want to miss anything. Margrit is currently the head of the painting atelier of the New York Studio School. Some of you know what that is, some of you don't, but it's a wonderful school in New York that's really based upon working with artists, not so much the academics of like a liberal arts college, which is straight art. So it has its own demands, and she and Bill have both been teaching there, but Margrit is now the head of that painting atelier. She's also associate professor at New York University, where she teaches wonderfully a drawing class up at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. She's done that for 20 years. Her teaching has also been as a visiting artist. A few of the places that students have been lucky to have her is Boston University, Rhode Island School of Design, Princeton University, Brandeis, Parsons School of Design, University of Connecticut, and Vermont Studio School, and there are many more. And I tried to make my remarks so that I wasn't just reading list upon list of things. But she was, first of all, here in 1995, also in 1999, and 2004, and now 2014. Over the past 40 years, Margrit has been in over 100 group exhibitions, I know because I counted them this morning, and 14 one-person exhibitions. Her paintings have been shown at Scarlet Field as the Thornton Wetterling Gallery in Stockholm, Sweden, the Gallery d'Art Assadi in Carthage, Tunisia, and the Museo Internazionale della Donna nell'Arte in Abruzzo, Italy. In New York, she's had countless shows, but I wanted to bring one more connection. She, in two of these shows, both at the Bowery Poetry Club and the Artist Space Gallery, Elizabeth Murray curated two shows of Margrit's work, and you all know we have Elizabeth Murray's wonderful Hearts and Bricks. And so far this year, she's in two shows in Brooklyn. Her work has been reviewed in the New York Times, Art in America, the Brooklyn Rail, Journal of Art and Arts, among others. And so I could go on and tell you how great she is, but you'll find that out for yourself. So please welcome Margrit Lewczuk.
Thank you, Kathy. And thank you for Maier Museum for inviting me to come. And can we just, I especially want to thank Kathy and Jim for inviting me to come to speak today. And yesterday I went around to see the students' work, and I was very impressed by how intelligent they were and how great their work was. And that's a real tribute to the artists that are teaching them, Jim and Kathy. So also we have a beautiful show here of Jim's that you should take some time to look at. And before knowing that he was working with feathered creatures, I was writing this talk about angels. So it's very appropriate that we should be here together. I'm very happy about that. So what I want to talk to you today about was my work, but especially about a catalog that I made that I feel contains lots of answers to questions I commonly get about my work. It was made at a time that I was having a show of my paintings and drawings. I would like to begin with images from the catalog, then show you some work that followed, and ending with some images that have inspired me to make new works. Muses, you might say, are what have been keeping me company in the studio while I've been working recently. Artists are always asking where our paintings come from and what they are about, and sometimes words really cannot explain. So I wanted to put together a catalog of people, places, artwork, and architecture, really anything that played a role, even in just a passing glance in the making of my artwork. This turned out to be a much bigger project than I had originally imagined. It involved digging through old photographs, converting slides to digitals, remembering over the years what struck me in places I had traveled to. At one point, after 3 months of collecting images, my entire house had every imaginable surface covered with images that now had to be put in some kind of place order in the catalog. There was no longer a place to sit on the couch, no spot to eat on the dining room table, and additional tables had to be set up just to put all the pieces of the puzzle together again. And this is what I'd like to show you today, followed by my most recent direction. So what we're looking at now is the cover of the catalog. And my name apparently has been giving people a lot of trouble. And it's not only my last name, but also my first name, so it gets spelled in every possible way. It gets pronounced in every possible way. So I thought, what I'm going to do is make an eye chart and help everyone along. So just as scribbling, I scribbled it on a newspaper, just trying to get some ideas, which I eventually used the first try. And it's broken down for you as Margrit Lewczuk. So it's Ukrainian. What you're seeing behind it is a drawing that has been blown up. Make it larger. Okay. So these are the images that start the second and third page. What we're looking at is two sides of the catalog. I'm going to begin with the upper left. The upper left is a panther that is a mosaic in the museum in Bordeaux in Tunisia. And it's a beautiful panther, and I was really struck by that. So I came home and made a drawing. I draw all the time. I draw every day. It's my connection with my work. So sometimes they don't wind up on those great sketch pads that I have that I paid $50 for from Kramer. They wind up on little scraps of paper from the hardware store, and the hardware store knows me already. They give me blocks of paper. So you can see all these little ideas that I have that eventually they stay with me, and they eventually become ideas for starts of paintings, and sometimes actually the end of the painting as well. There's a painter whose work I like very much, David Reed, and he for a long time said that he did not draw, but he made little notes on pieces of paper, and he might have had suggestions about, I want to use this color, don't forget about that. When I combine these two colors, this is what happened. And it wasn't until the Vogels, who are a couple who collect art, he is a postman, she worked in a library. And with their salary, they started collecting art, and they collected David Reed. And they told him, these are drawings, you should consider them as drawings. So I really like that, the ideas that in words wind up on paper with images, and they can be called drawings. The one on the bottom, orange, yes, thank you, Bill, is just some ideas. Maybe we spent a lot of time in Italy in summer, so it could have been the trip to the Pantheon. The one on the upper, yes? Yeah, that's called Russell's Eye. Just a little higher. Yeah, that one. And that wound up being a painting. And it comes from a story about when my son was in high school and he was 18, he was about to graduate. Everything was going to be fine, he was graduating. And he had an injury to his eye that threatened his vision. And I would ask him every day, so tell me what you can see. And he told me that he saw these blurry lines, and he saw these jagged edges. And sometimes artists use anxiety that they have in their life to, if you look at it, it helps it go away. So that's what I was doing with this. I was seeing through what he was going through this painting. And it eventually became a 48 by 60 inch painting. The image below is a figure. And I've been told that, or asked, why do I have a figure in my paintings when I've been an abstract painter for 30 years? Things just happen that are out of your control. So you see something that you really love and you have to have it in your painting. This particular figure comes from the Medici Chapel in Florence, and he, it's a male figure, drapes the doorway of the Medici Chapel, Michelangelo. And that also eventually became a painting that you'll see later on, actually a phosphorescent painting. Going down, the little sketch is the female figure that drapes the male figure at the Medici Chapel. And one is night and one is day. Going up to the upper right corner, we're back to sort of an abstracted image of the panther. Below is a painting that wound up being a painting 48 by 60, and below is a drawing for Connie. Connie was a close friend of mine, Connie Reyes, and this became a painting called Drums for Connie that we'll see later on. Okay. Here we're in Italy. This is going to seem a little bit like a travelogue because we travel a lot, so when you come back, you have these images of color and light that you bring back with you. My paintings are large, so I can't, when I go away, work on the paintings, but instead I do these collages. The one on the left is something like 11 by 15 inches, and it's cut paper, it's colored pencil and cut paper. And this is something that I do when we go away. We've been lucky enough to be able to rent a house in Italy for the past 20 years. We go back to the same house. And this, what you're seeing on the right, behind all the little images, is my studio, which I share. Well, the sheep were there before me in the summertime, and then when I arrive, they go out to the meadow. But it hardly ever rains where we are, so I can work outside with no windows, no doors. And you can see I'm working on paper that is something like 22 inches by 30, and the one on the lower right is a collage. It's the cut piece for the day that we saw earlier with the drawing on top. So up until just a few years ago, we didn't even have a telephone when we went there. We would just work all day. We're in a farm, and it's a working farm around us, and we have very, very few distractions, which makes it just the ideal place to work and just daydream. You could sit and watch a cloud from one end to the other, and it's a wonderful place to work. The collage that you're seeing on the left is something that I was doing as an experiment to see how colored pencil works on colored paper. And I took that and I saw, okay, this works. And then I threw it in the garbage. So about a year ago or so, I got this back framed from Bill for Valentine's Day. And I looked at it and thought, I threw that in the garbage. So that became a series of 3 or 4 new paintings that have gone in a totally different direction. The paintings have borders on them like that collage, and the interior, the red, is drawn with charcoal and fixed and drawn and fixed and drawn and fixed. So it's a very, very different direction. Being that I like to draw so much, I thought, why stop at the drawing? Just continue along onto the painting itself. So that's a very, very different place for me. I'm just getting used to them. This is our son, Russell. He was 12, he's now 27. He's a farmer in Vermont. Okay. Up on the upper left is an acrobat. And this is an acrobat that you can see in the Archaeological Museum in Mexico. And the figure is about 2 inches tall, and it has a hole up in the right knee, the knee on the right side. And they use that for a vessel, for rituals. It's a beautiful, beautiful little thing. The show came to New York a couple of years ago, but if you ever get a chance to go to Mexico City, to the Archaeological Museum, it's absolutely incredible. Below is an icon, was at the Metropolitan Museum. Kathy mentioned that I teach there. I've been teaching drawing there through the new school for the past 20 years, so I am lucky enough to see every show that comes there, and it feels like home. I've lost the ability to get lost at the Metropolitan Museum, which is a real sadness for me. Right below are 2 boxers, and the boxers are mosaics from Tunisia, back to the Bardo Museum. And below that is just a funny little photograph of me. I've been a boxer for the past 40 years, so I thought it would be funny to add that in with the boxing. Going up to the crucifix. A couple of years ago, I found myself making this image. And for me, it just started out as an image, and having a background being Catholic, going to a Catholic grammar school and high school, they told me that if we get you before the age of 6, we have you for the rest of your life. And they were right. So, image below is called 3 Stars for Emma. And Emma is the artist, Emma Kunst, who is a Swiss artist who's also a healer. She is known for making these drawings that take 24 hours. She stands over her table and she'll make a drawing based on the person who's coming to visit her who has an ailment. And she can see what that ailment is, and she will make a drawing to correspond to that person's particular need, and that person will take the drawing home. She never considered herself to be an artist. She considered herself to be a healer. So this is someone whose work I really, really love. And there's actually a museum in her name in Switzerland, Emma Kunst. You can buy this powder if you're in Europe that you use to make a paste for things that are ailments for elbows and knees. So it's one of my heroes, Emma Kunst. Below is an image back to Mexico. It's a chacma, and it's a figure that you can see all over the Yucatan. And you can see in the belly, there's a little, it's like a bowl. In the actual, it's actually up here in the upper right is the chacma. And there's a bowl in the lap, and the bowl was used for sacrifices, so they would take heart, I think it's mainly the heart, and offer that as the sacrifice. They're very, very beautiful statues, very, very simple, and something that I repeat in my work quite often. Up above is another abstracted panther on some kind of paper. Okay, let's move down. This is a little sketch that I made in Salambo, which is also in Tunisia. It became a painting eventually. Another cross on the right, and another down below, another version of the chacma. And here you can see the actual little acrobat. And it's a beautiful, beautiful little figure. Imagine it just being 2 inches tall. Okay, we are now in Africa. 2 skull drawings on the left are something, I love Mexican banners, and I draw from the banners, and that's a painting that is 4 feet by 5 feet, and it never got finished. I always wanted to be, or like the idea of collaborating with another artist. So for that painting, I had somebody whose work I admire, Tamara Gonzalez, came over, and we were going to finish this painting together. So she was terrified to put any marks on the painting, and I took a brush with a lot of black paint, and I made a big W on it. And I thought after that, that seemed like a violation of the painting, that it would break the barrier and she'd be able to paint on it. We spent the whole day going back and forth. I worked in acrylic, so she worked a bit, I worked a bit. We sat, watched it dry, and it's still unfinished. So it's something I'd like to try again. And down below is another version of the skull. To the right are some images and photographs from when we went to Timbuktu 2 years ago. And there's a music festival. It's West Africa, near Mali, and they offer this festival of 3 days of music, West African music, music from the Tuaregs, 3 nights on the Sahara Desert, and it is absolutely incredible just hearing this great music. So up above is the Dogon country. And these are some markings that you see in their caves. Below that is a very well-known, now they're very well-known, they're called Amadou and Miriam, and they're from West Africa, and they probably brought and popularized West African music to the world. And they're a couple, a married couple, they're both blind, and they were sitting behind us at this concert. So moving straight down, there's another photo of the Dogon country. And up above is a pinnas, which is something that you can take across the Niger, and you have to time it very well. You want to go across after the hippos have eaten. So you time that very well. And you don't light a match, you just look at the incredible stars above you. It's magical. Down below is again another photo from the Dogon country. You can see the skins that are hung outside of their homes. And at the very bottom is again another cave with markings. Also very beautiful. Okay, now these are my older paintings. They're all oil paint. And this is the way I painted for probably 20-some-odd years. The one on the left is called Three Alone, and it's from, the title comes from the little family of 3 that we are. So at the time I was very interested in Fra Angelico, Goya, Van Gogh, Marston Hartley, Soutine, and these are all people that were in my studio with me. So when you're a young painter, you, or I, tend to make these very dark, very serious paintings. And I think that's what young painters sometimes do. So these are oil paint, and there are many, many, many layers of paint, and they're very, very complicated when you see them. They're almost like puzzle pieces that are put together. The middle row up above is called well, as in a well, a drinking well, where you could look deep inside. I like the idea of my paintings having titles or names, so this way they can be, you can call them, or if you have a show, someone will say to you how much they liked well, instead of saying, I like the green painting that was in the corner on the left side under the orange one. So it's very nice to take the time to give them names. The one below is called Plain, Plain as in Plain, And it's an aerial view. I'm not much of a flyer. I don't like airplanes, but it comes from an aerial view that I had on a small plane, which was very memorable. Down below is a painting called Rome Tree. And our first introduction to Italy was going to the American Academy in Rome. And we stayed at the Academy for about 3 months. And we both had studios and did a lot of work. And Rome has these beautiful umbrella trees that I was very impressed with. So I made a couple of paintings of these umbrella trees. It's a great place to work all week, and then on weekends go and see everything that's in Rome, all the great museums, live their pace of life. The painting up on the upper right is called Kindred, and this is a painting that I sat with for a long, long time, not knowing whether it was finished, and left it up on my wall, left for a couple of months, came back, only to realize that it had actually been finished, and that was the reason why I couldn't work on it, because it was done, and I wasn't ready to see that or to know that. Below that is a painting called -0, and this was made in a studio that I had in the meat market on 14th Street that was very, very cold studio. It had high ceilings, big skylights. It was beautiful in the spring, fall, and summer, but it was very, very cold. And I would wear snowsuits, and I had a kerosene heater that was sitting in front of my painting wall. And I thought it was a kerosene heater that was throwing the glow onto that painting. And I remember using an Indian yellow that is a fantastic color, and that came out as a result of sitting in front of the glow of this kerosene heater. And my love for Van Gogh also. At the time we had a lot of Van Gogh drawing shows and painting shows at the Met. This is my studio on 14th Street, my old studio, which is now a studio that I was just talking about that was very cold. And in the center you see me laying on the floor. This is the ritual I had to buy this Irish linen, Belgian linen, and it was probably 20 feet long by 10 feet or more. And I wanted to get my scent on the linen before I started stretching. You can see the stretcher bars on the floor. And they would get stretched up with rabbit skin glue and white lead. And what I would do is stretch up a year's worth of paintings at a time. So I do probably 10 stretchers at a time. This is how they started, that I had to get myself in there, almost like doing snow angels. The paintings all around are in the 70s and 80s, late 70s and 80s. The one to the upper left is called Pitch, P-I-T-C-H. And I believe that paintings have sounds, they make sounds. And this is a painting that gave a very particular sound to me as I was working on it. The painting below is called I Don't Want It to Be Summer. And you can see a little bit of that suggestion of that W in the painting that I used for the collaboration later on. Up above is called Enchanted Forest. None of these paintings exist anymore because I had a fire in my studio and I lost 25 years worth of work. So I was born, I died, and I came back. The one below is called Ray's Cabin, and that's painting from the 70s. And that's a landscape. I think it was a waterfall or a raging river. That was, so you can see that in the painting. These were very, very thickly painted paintings with palette knife and very dark colors. So up above it's a copy of a painting. I can't remember which one it is, but it's from an Italian 12th century painting that I copied. No, it's a work, yeah. And down below is a painting called Tugboat. And it was from the earlier studio that was right on the East River. Down below that is, and if anyone's familiar with New York and 14th Street and the meat market, this was the old New York City meat market where I live on 14th Street. It has really, really changed. My studio now is Stella McCartney's showroom. And at the time, there were these overhangs where trucks would come and they would take cows out that were dead, beheaded cows. And that's where they cut up all the meat. And it was a real meat market. No longer. So it was a very colorful place. I think Soutine might have even had a hard time living on the street. Okay, we are now in the world of phosphorescence. And this is sort of an idea of what the show looked like here that was in this room. Every one of these paintings except for the crucifix was in the show. And what you can see is on the left side are what the paintings look like with the lights on. And on the right side is what the paintings look like when the lights went off. So this, on the right, they're phosphorescent paint, and on the left, they're fluorescent paintings. And it was really around this time that I switched to working and putting figures in. And we had a very close friend, Al Held, and he came to my studio. Before he even walked in, I was very worried. He was a very abstract painter. I warned him saying, listen, Al, there's some figures in my paintings. And he just said to me, listen, Margaret, it's the 21st century. Get over it. Which was real shock coming from this person. So I felt he had to be prepared. And many other people had that same reaction. Where are these figures coming from? And I think making the switch from the oil paintings to the phosphorescent, everything changed. The way I had to work changed. The way I drew changed. Everything. So I was working with a very, very unfamiliar material, which I like the idea of working with something that's very unknown to me because it takes you to a new place. And part of the figure is kind of camouflaged underneath this geometry. So here, the lights were on with a timer for 2 minutes, and then the lights went off. So it worked perfectly. It was an ideal place to have a show of this work because there are no skylights, there are no windows. It was absolutely perfect. By the way, if anyone wants to stop me and ask any questions, feel free. Okay, these are all collaged, and they're from a few years ago, maybe 2007. And again, this is something that I do when I'm not in America because I can't cart 4 feet by 5 foot paintings around with me. So the one on the right is made from rice paper. It's very, very delicate paper, and I don't use rulers. I cut freehand, and the blue paper that you see is woven into this very delicate rice paper, and the purple is another piece of paper on top of that. So before I was a painter, I made sculpture, and I feel that that's my way of groping through the dark, is trying to figure things out in this kind of three-dimensional way with paper and with cutting. The image up on the left, upper left, is taken from a Mexican banner. And I learned a lot just from copying banners. I also spent a lot of time looking at spiders and spider webs and watching bees get caught in spider webs. And That's that group in there as well. I discovered a swivel knife, which is like a straight edge that you can make curves with. And when I discovered that, everything changed. All my forms changed, everything. So these are about 11 by 14. This is a combination of different places and things. On the left, we have some more collage. And Camco, as you can see, is a local building supply. And they supply me with all my drawing materials. And what you see below is they're cut into fringes. Below that is a wall that's outside of my studio, and you can see 3 crosses and 3 crucifixes. So I don't usually work in a series like this, but the first one was the first painting that intended to be the 3rd painting. And someone came, or I spoke to someone on the phone, Connie Reyes. I said, Connie, I'm working on this painting, and it has a cross in it, and now there's somebody hanging on it. And she said to me, Margaret, I know you're going to fuck it up. Leave that painting alone. So I went and I made the second one. And the second one somebody else saw and said, do not touch that one. So I actually got 3 paintings out of this one. The 3rd was my intended painting, but I'm very happy that I have the other 2. And it happens, the artists in the room, they know this, that when you're working, you're not sure, just the idea of going on to another one and saving that first one, it was the right thing to do. So up above is Frida Kahlo, one of my other heroes, and it's a painting of hers with a deer and the Frida Kahlo head. And below is a photograph of Frida Kahlo by Manuel Alvarez Bravo. And down below is the actual mosaic of the panther. So I really want to show people that when you're an abstract artist, that you just you're not making up designs, that they come from things and places that you've seen, and that they stay with you for a long time, and they change also. So up above is it's a tile from the Bardo Museum as well. And below that is a door that's in Kyoto. And it's a beautiful, beautiful, this stopped me in my tracks, this elephant. And it was a place where there were rituals in Japan, and it was in a temple in Kyoto. And this is kind of an idea of what I'm doing more recently. The painting on the upper left corner is the one that we saw much earlier that was called Kanye's Drum. And I'm very interested in West African music. And somehow, unintentionally, I felt that the sound wound up in that painting. The vibration and the sound wound up in that painting. Down below is a painting called Dusk, and that was titled by a friend because he said that when you're looking into that painting, it feels like you're standing outside of the house, and it's getting dark, and it's just before you turn on the lights inside of your house. I thought that was a really beautiful image. Up above, yes, is this, yes, untitled painting. And there's a beautiful figure in the Chinese section of the Metropolitan Museum of a dancing figure. And she's wearing a kimono. She's no taller than a foot tall, and she's bending forward, dancing with this kimono on. This is an afterthought. I was looking at it and I thought that felt like that kind of a movement. It wasn't done directly after seeing that. So down below is, these are all about the same time, about a couple of years ago, and they're all the same size. I like the idea of, as long as it works, keeping the 4 feet by 5 feet. Another one of my heroes, Agnes Martin, made paintings that were 6 feet by 6 feet. And then when she got to be in her 80s, she thought it was a little bit too large for her, so she switched from 6'6" to 5 feet 5. And it's a nice rectangle. Up above, the third one over, yes, it's all the same size. This is a painting that wound up in Kiev. It's right now in the American Embassy, a newly built building in the embassy in Kiev. The painting below. A couple of years ago, I had an empty space in front of my studio, and someone suggested that I turn it into a gallery where I would show my own work. And I thought that was a terrible idea. I thought it was such a tacky idea to show your own work in your own space. And I thought about it overnight, and I decided to do it. And luckily it turned out. It's a Lauren Monk, who's a writer, and it was his suggestion to do that. So I had a show. It was up for a couple of months, and a lot of people came, and got a write-up in the New York Times with this photograph, this painting that was probably 6 inches, all full color. And it was considered one of the first pop-up shows in New York, and with a review by Roberta Smith saying that, you know, artists should take this into their own hands. If they don't find the right galleries, just take it upon yourself to get a storefront and show your work on your own. So it's a great idea, and it's happening all over Brooklyn. It's happening in Bushwick, especially now. A lot of my students are finding spaces and getting together and showing their work. It's really alive right now, which I'm very happy to see. Up above is another painting that's for Emma Kunst, 5 stars for Emma Kunst. And this is one of the last pages of the catalog. It's written by the same person I just talked about, Lauren Monk, who is a writer writing under the name of James Kahn. If anyone reads the Brooklyn Rail, they might recognize the name of James Kahn, who's also a painter, and a terrific painter, someone who makes very large paintings of maps, and the maps might be of different areas of New York. So, for example, it could be Soho in the 70s, and what he's done is researched everyone that has lived in that neighborhood and written their name on this huge map. He was also a delivery man for Utrecht, an art supply store. So he had the name and address of every artist that he was delivering to. So the combination of having this information and being the painter and loving art history put it all together, and he's now getting a lot of recognition for his work finally. And if you look on James Kahn, the Kahn Report, you can YouTube it and find every show that he has gone on his bicycle. He goes on his bike every day and goes to openings, and he'll videotape the entire opening, and you can see shows, every show in New York. And there's a little running commentary. It's not the best job videotaping, but it gives you a really good idea if you can't get out to see everything. So it's nice that someone that was so community-minded and tried to support his fellow artists is now getting a lot of recognition. So I'm very happy about that. This is our little Lucy, who just died last year, but yeah, this is when we first got her. And the writing up above is by Ronald Bladen, who is a friend. You might know him as the sculptor who built the Black X that was shown at the Corcoran years ago. And he's also a painter, so I included that in the, as the last page of the catalog. So now what I want to do is move on to, the painting that the museum has here is called Crystallis 3. This is Crystallis 1. There's going to be a 1 and a 2. And I just wanted to explain how the painting that is here became a winged creature or a butterfly or an angel or whatever way you want to think about it. So this would be the first stage, almost like a beginning, an embryo beginning. All this I figured out way after the paintings were done. It was not with this intention that I made this painting. So this is Crystallis 1. And then the second one is this. And in the second stage of either life or death, there comes a time of roaming. And some of the symbols in the painting come from something I read years ago about Alfred Jensen. And when he was from Guatemala, and when his mother passed away, he was 12 years old, he remembers a white coffin being lowered into the ground, and him seeing these 4 white, orange angels in each corner. And that image struck me so much. So when I was putting this painting together, I wanted to have that kind of very severe symbol, and the waves behind it feel like you're floating and roaming to your next destination in life. And then this is the painting that's here. This is Crystallis 3. And part of the painting came about from going to Istanbul and walking into the Hagia Sophia and practically passing out when I saw it. It's one of the most incredible things I've seen. I mentioned earlier that inspirations come from artwork, but they also come for me from architecture. I love looking at architecture. So these blue bands on the side are some bands that we'd see alongside of these angels. There are 4 angels in the Hagia Sophia when you walk in. And other people might look at other things in the museum, in the church, temple. But all I saw were these 4 angels. And they aren't necessarily good-looking angels. They could actually be something that were not good as well. So it really interested me. And then feathers and the light. So from this, I just wanted to show you a couple of images of different angels that are from around the world. It seems that angels are found in the mythological stories of nearly every culture in history. In most religions and mythologies, angels are reassuring presences bringing comfort and the promise of eternal life. As intermediaries between earthly and heavenly worlds, they are represented in human form with wings, but with supernatural attributes. At the same time, recognizable and strange, familiar and transfigured. So here's the first image. Oh, sorry. That's the painting that followed after the 3. This is my newest painting that I'm working on. This is the first image. The Sijil, Kurabi, and Zura are Islamic angels. Pravashish are of ancient Persian religion. They're the guardians, the protecting spirits, and they guide the souls of the deceased to heaven. Takinis are Buddhist sky dancing angels. Awiri are guardian angels for a number of tribal groups in Central Africa. Tenshi are Japanese angels. Valkyrie are Norse angels carrying the dead to the afterlife. Angels also appear in Babylonian, Assyrian, Chinese, Greek, and Roman mythologies. The angels we're most familiar with are the Judeo-Christian angels seen most of the time in Christian Italian paintings. So this is a six-winged angel, and it's most similar to what I saw at the Hagia Sophia. This is a seven-headed serpent that is swallowing the waters of earth. Above is the angel with the promise of salvation. And this is from a German medieval manuscript. This one is a visionary 12th century manuscript of Hildegard von Bingen. And Hildegard von Bingen was a composer, a philosopher, and a mystic. And she wrote botanical and medicinal texts as well as liturgical songs and poems while supervising miniature illuminations. And here we see her nuns, she was a nun, here we see her nuns cradled in the arms of an angel as tall as a mountain. This is an angelic protector in Islam. It's actually a Turkish miniature showing an angel carrying off a prince. The angel is a messenger in the Islamic tradition. This is a Mughal miniature showing an angel appearing to an Indian ruler. And this is on a vault of a cathedral in Sicily, in Cefali. The angels divide the space between them in the universal four-sided mandala. And these are the four-winged angels again. This is Assyrian. The Assyrian pantheon portrayed in angelic form in this relief. It's from Khorsabad. It's an Assyrian wall relief. And we have a beautiful room at the Metropolitan Museum filled with these Assyrian wall reliefs. And you might see them at other museums as well. This is Dura, St. Michael and his warrior angels conquering Satan in the form of a dragon. It's a woodcut from Albrecht Dürer, and it's called Apocalypse 1498. This is a detail from a mosaic of the Last Judgment in Torcello in Italy. It's an island off of Venice. And angels have had a traditional role in Christian mythology as executioners of God's judgment, raising the saved to heaven and the damned into hell. Here we have William Blake. William Blake's watercolor from 1808. It's inspired by Milton's Paradise Lost. It takes us to the Garden of Eden before the fall of man. Two angels are watching over the sleep of the still innocent Adam and Eve. William Blake was an English poet, painter, printmaker. And at an early age, Blake claimed to have seen visions. At the age of 4, he saw God put his head to the window. At the age of 8 or 10, he saw a tree filled with angels, bright angelic wings, bespangled every bough like stars. This is St. Michael defeating the dragon. It's from an 11th century gospel book. And here we have a Coptic icon, which is the art of Egypt in the early Christian era. Solar, chivalrous, victorious day overcomes lunar, watery, reptilian night. The serpent is cast out of the garden once more, but countless times. And here we have William Blake once again. Angel in all its glory and energizing power. This is in Hindu Tantra, the female is sometimes seen as active, the masculine as passive. This enigmatic piece of Hellenistic carved marble may signify a similar doctrine in Greek paganism. We have sexual bliss depicted in Tibetan art, as in this painting of the great magus, symbolizing the perfection of spiritual union. And once again, William Blake's watercolor of Angels Watching Over the Tomb of Christ. It's 1806. And this one is in the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. Here we have Tobias and the angel who accompanied him on his journey before revealing that he was Gabriel. This painting is by Paolo in the gallery in Turin. Child Angels. It's 15th century, and this is a page taken from the Visconti Hours, which are a personal prayer book made for the wealthy. Here we have Elijah carried up to heaven on a fiery chariot. This is a 16th century Russian icon. Mosaic from Tunisia. This is from the museum that I've been talking about, the Bordeaux Museum, and it's cherubs waging a war mounted on storks. Japanese bugaku dancers as angels in a painting by Icho. This is 1652 through 1724. It's uncertain whether Japan borrowed the angel figure from the ancient Middle East or vice versa, but an archetype which is truly basic to human experience will appear simultaneously in all cultures. Here's one of my personal favorites. Here we have angels gazing down from the ceiling of the church of Debre Berhan in Ethiopia. It's late 18th century. All reality is one, but to the seeker who has not yet reached perfection. It seems to unfold as a system of ascending levels of reality, like the rungs of a ladder. Carnal, mental, psychic. Spiritual, and finally, total union with the principle beyond all becoming. At each such stage, there is an angel to be encountered, a guardian to the threshold, but also the very substance of the experience within. This is Persian. In Persian mythology too. Angels fly between earth and heaven. And this miniature is from Osis. And it's from Shanema. It's in Farsi. And finally, we have a Russian icon. And this is depicting an angel lifting a soul in ecstasy to heaven. And it's also one of my favorites. It seems to be this battle going on about who's pulling who up or down. So I'd like to have just one last word about angels as muses. And I would like to say that they have a tendency to appear when you are doing something else and you're least prepared. So a slogan that I live by John Lennon is, life is what happens when you're making other plans. So many times you could be driving and you don't have a pen, and that inspiration comes along and you're saying, wait for the red light, or wait till I get home. So they come at inappropriate times many times. Or you could be sleeping and you're not going to remember when you wake up and you don't have a pen also. Or there could be long spells where they won't speak to you as you're waiting for the title of your painting. And you're asking, what is your name? Tell me your name. These are the tortures that artists face when they sit there looking at their work, trying to connect with it and have the work speak back to you. And until you make that inspired painting, you pray, please don't let anybody else make that painting. But in the end, you do get rewarded for your work that you put in. Thank you. Yes.
There seems to be a lot of symmetry in your artwork, at least in like the later stuff. Do you do that on purpose, or does it just end up happening?
Even if I tried, I couldn't do it because there's always something that goes wrong.
Yeah.
I have to daydream, so I lose my line or something happens.
Yeah.
They may seem like they're symmetrical, but they're not really. And I really rely on that moment where there's a mistake. So, yeah.
Yeah.
What made you change from oil to acrylic?
Now let's do this. The older paintings were oil, and I thought that if I would continue to work with the oil, it would remind me of my old studio and the paintings that I lost. So it was like a sense of my smell. So I wanted to really change to acrylic, and also just to do something that was entirely different. There was a transitional period where I was working with the oil paint, and then there's a whole year before I started working in acrylic. And in that year, I made very large ink drawings, and big black ink drawings of clouds, and I was working outdoors in Maine. And people would come over and say to me, oh, you poor thing, you lost everything in the fire. I was getting really mad after a while, thinking, I don't want anybody to pity me, so I'm going to go out and get myself the brightest colors that I can find, because people associate bright with happy. I'm not going to let this get me down. So, and when you work for 25 years in your studio as an artist, it's a hard thing to stop doing. So that was the transition from the ink drawings to the acrylic.
You called someone like, what should I do to this painting and know when it's finished? Do you have any advice to someone who doesn't know herself and also calls people to ask if it's finished?
Pick the right person. And there's nothing like sitting there, and waiting, and like I did with the 3 crucifix. Start another one. Just start another one, and this way you don't lose the first one. Sometimes, they don't really talk to you. It takes a long time before you realize that they're done. I had the other one that sat on my wall for 3 months that I didn't know was finished. So call in lots of different ways. But it's good to have, especially after you're out of school, to have a group of friends that you really know and trust come to your studio. They don't necessarily have to be artists. And keep a dialogue going with them. Talk to them about your work. Get titles from them. Yeah,
What has been your favorite medium to work with?
What has been my favorite medium to work with? Well, when I do the collage, I can't paint at the same time. It's a completely different mindset. And it used to be when I did wood blocks, it was the same thing. I would completely stop painting and change my studio, change my tables, take my paint off, set up for cutting. So, I love what I'm doing when I'm doing it. So I love doing the collage, when I have that break, sometimes for 3 months of the summer. I look forward to them. And that actually nourishes me for a year or two until I get that big break again. So, yeah, it changes.
Since you get so much inspiration on your travels, is there any, it seems like you've been to so many places. Is there anywhere that you're interested in that you haven't quite gotten to yet?
Yes, I want to go to Ethiopia.
Okay.
Near the eyes that we saw, that's the next destination. I would love to go to Ethiopia. And there's some temples that are way, way out in the desert that you have to take a camel to go to. They set up these temples because when the king died, they would put the king on the camel, and where the camel walked out into the desert and collapsed is where they built the temple. So that's where I want to go. Yes.
Do you have any advice for the senior studio majors that are getting ready to finish and getting ready to do their show here soon and graduate? Do you have any advice for us to go out in the art world?
Well, a lot of people ask me if they have to come to New York. And I say no. I say find a place where you can work, have a studio, and if you have to have a job, of course, make enough time for your studio, but live in a place where you can have time to work in your studio. And that doesn't seem to be New York, because the students that I have live 5 and 10 together in one loft. And they're working full-time and painting at night and sometimes on weekends, which is what we all did. But it's a hard life for them. New York City is very expensive, so if you could stay here or any other place and have a simpler life and do your work, if you're doing your work, they're going to come and get you. So they're going to find you. Anybody else?
Do you think that compiling that catalog of inspiration changed your art in any way, even though it was inspiration you already had?
Well, it's always interesting to find out what you liked, and to put it, I recommend this for anyone. It's a huge labor of love doing this. Just imagine all the things that have inspired you in your life, and trying to physically find the photograph or the memory of it and putting it together in such a concise way. Really, it's like, for me, it was like 50 years of psychotherapy in 3 months. It's a great thing to do for yourself, even.
Do you ever consider your collages as finished works, or are they usually?
Yeah. There's a lot of work that goes into them, and when I'm working on one collage, what is the cutoff from the one collage becomes the start of another one. And they're very serious starts to my paintings. And right now in my studio, I have 2 walls where all the collage hang, and I look at them all the time as ideas for new paintings. So I take them very seriously, and they have been shown in galleries. People seem to really like them.
A lot of your sketches seem to be preparatory works for your paintings. Did you consider the sketches themselves as their own artwork, or just kind of like a craft sketch?
I think of them as just little sketches to trigger things in my mind, but one of the ideas I had years ago, and I suggested this to a gallery dealer, I always want to see the work that goes in before a painting. So when I was talking this idea to this dealer, Jen Konitowski is a dealer in Brooklyn. She suggested that I do the show that was in my dreams. I wanted her to do the show with other people so I could see how they draw, especially seeing sculptors' drawings and then the sculpture. I'm very interested in that. So for that show, what I did was I had 4 paintings, and I went through my sketchbook, and this really hurt. I pulled out some of the sketches from my sketchbook, and I had 65 drawings that were pinned. First, I had them pinned very nicely around the painting. And then after that, we changed that and we just put them around so they were like snowflakes. So I had 65 little sketches and then the actual paintings alongside of it. And I just figured everybody can connect the dots themselves without having to explain it to them and put the drawings around the paintings. So that was very exciting for me. I would love to see other people do that here too. Maybe the museum can do a show like that. Because people are really interested. They want to know the beginnings of work.
What was your inspiration for starting the phosphorescent paintings?
Well, when I was doing the fluorescent paintings, they were very bright, and I saw them in the daytime as being this really, really bright color. But then I got greedy, and then I wanted to see that kind of light also at night. I didn't want it to end only in the daytime. So it was sort of a natural progression that it went for me, that it went from the fluorescent to the phosphorescent. And I'm not completely finished with phosphorescent. I'd like to keep on doing more, experimenting with more. There are not many people that, or they don't admit to making phosphorescent paintings, but I think they're out there. So I haven't met too many other people. Anybody else? Well, thank you very much for coming out.